Dear Germany, I decoded the whole entire planet, and I'm here to tell you, just like everywhere else in the world, your culture and your ancient traditions are tied to the whole entire planet. This channel has traced every civilization and matched magic, gods, and traditions. My subscribers know every place I've covered is a receipt for the next place and the place before. For anyone new watching, stay to the end and learn an important message. A message that can create world peace and an understanding on why you are tied to ancient gods. But even better than that, the reason why you are a god, just like every other human on this planet. Now let's decode Germany. This portrait portrays the Germanic tribe dominating their rivals. I put a light blue dot on every Germanic soldier that is facing forward in the battle. This alone is a representation of the power of the gods. That 9 represents Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, the crescent moon, Uranus, and Neptune. The center figure carrying the shield shows the symbol of the 7 planets with the flower in the center. The circle around it counts as a planet as well. The 2 dots at the top of the shield represent 8 and 9 as an option for planets to add to the 7. The 7-candle menorah turning into the 9. This is why gods are associated with planets in ancient times. The planets are the true force of everything's existence. Let's move on to a Germanic Stonehenge. I definitely had no clue about this. Now, if you're one of my advanced subscribers, I instantly expect you to know how many constellations Germany should have before I even go any further. We traveled the whole world and noticed that Ireland has the specific round mounds. We know mounds are dated before the pyramids, even before you look at the constellation. Let's take a second to notice where the blue lines show the intersection of the equator line. We already know this is a representation of the planet Saturn, and those open sections are where the rings would lay. Now, because this place is old, there are some things that are grouped differently than what we're used to in the 12 and 13 constellation period. Let's start counting, shall we? I used tiny red dots to show you the different sets of rings that flow all the way to the center. When you count those red dots, you'll count 7. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, the crescent moon. Our 7-day week. From the outer ring working in, you'll see little divots in the dirt. Some are grouped in 7, some are grouped in 9, some are grouped in 5. The 5 represent the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. The Sun and Moon make 7, Uranus and Neptune make 9. After the pivot ring, you'll see a log-shaped ring. Some of those clumped together count 5 planets or 7 planets. Here's a better example to see the detail of things, especially the as above, so below representation. Somehow the whole entire planet got this aspect of life. In the next photo, you can see how the U-shape, tuning fork shape is pointed in the direction of the gate. Throughout the year, as the stars line up in certain formations, rituals and sacrifices were performed. This is how humans traded for favor. Sacrifices are a main part of our history on every corner of the planet. This is one of the purposes of the Abrahamic branch come into existence. Not just for things that are considered unethical, but a chance to control power. Notice this stele to the right, the gray one, has 7 notches. There may be one more notch around the back to equal 9 when you go to the center belt. This represents as above, so below on the other side. I'm going to have to get this as above, so below episode over with really soon, so you guys can stop being in the dark about what that truly means. It doesn't just mean the other side. Notice that D shape above the 7, which is actually nothing more than just a crescent moon with an arrow pointing up for the directions of the energies of the planets. On the top, where you see the three, would be a representation of knowledge of the gods, also harnessing the powers of the planet through the knowledge of the gods. The Holy Trinity that made it to everyone's civilizations and into modern times Bible. The other gray stone on the other side of the red one with the red dots shows the crescent moon with the direction arrow and also a planet over top of it, that's Saturn. In today's time, you might see that on a flag. It would be a crescent moon and a star. This is the same exact thing, just older. Everything in the Abrahamic branch comes from pagan sources. This channel has the receipts for everything. Moving on, you see the word belt. I did that to highlight all of the carvings all over the world that we see with the statues' hands folded at the belt line, or belts with representation of the planets right there. That belt is a representation of the ring of Saturn, no different than your earrings or your wedding ring. Everything we practice today comes from an ancient source, and that ancient source comes from a pagan source. Now, don't get me wrong with this word pagan. It should be redefined as true nature, minus the stealing power from the planets with sacrifices. There's a reason that Saturn was feared in ancient times. It is the karma god. Don't forget who writes your story. There are countless ways to be punished in this life and the next. Next to the belt, you see the three. This is representation of the three kings. Up, you see the arms hanging down with the representation of 5 planets on each hand. This method was used since the Stone Age. Over top of that, you see the symbol for the 5 planets as well in the menorah shape, which is a symbol for harnessing the energies of the planets above in 4K. Thank you, Germany. And this is the power of everyone's story. When you put them together, it makes a complete picture of the story that's been given. All of our stories were coded, including the Bible had to be decoded. Next, you see the red one. You see the 7 planet representation with the red and white, so it's as above, so below. Over top of that, you see the 5 with the as above, so below. Notice the white and black checkered board, just like I showed you all over the world in places considered pagan. These colors made it into the Catholic Church, as they shame you for being magic users. In order for religion to work, you have to use magic itself. My subscribers know this because we know how symbols work, especially religious ones. Now my mouth dropped open immediately as soon as I seen this. I know this represents a gate, a false door, just like we've seen all over the world. And of course, the symbols all over it are planet representation. My subscribers know instantly as soon as they see this where the frequency lines are. The frequency lines represent matching your frequency to the planet's frequency above. They know the sun at the top can represent the 5, 7, or 9 planets, depending on how you count it. As an example, you count the patterns facing the direction of the person going toward the object. At the bottom, you'll see examples of 9 planets, 3 representation, 5 planet representation, especially knowing that the X represents the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. It comes from the Stone Age and modern times turned into the cross. Isn't it funny how every religion needs a symbol to associate itself with? On to the next shot. Oh wait, how did this get in here? Did the king make a mistake finally? Japan's gate, just like Germany's gate, also has the same representation of the planets above all over it. This is why it's my job to teach the world about our shared traditions and our shared gods, so that one day, hopefully, the world can end the divide in the ego of who's greater than who has the better God than who. They're all the same, and we all have been duped. Now, what an entrance someone trained in magic could make, entering a town or a city or a civilization with these false doors that have been recorded all around the world. Now, if I keep going around the world, Germany will never get finished. So let's just move on. Of course, I counted the teeth from the end to the center, 9 for the 9 planets. I will be doing some research in Germany for a while to see exactly how many bones were found in this area. Once you find the remains of an ancient ancestor, you know how the sacrifice was played out. Some in ancient times were buried alive, hit over the head with a rock, hearts ripped out of their chest. And of course, we can't forget about the burning practices. My advanced subscribers know that fire is a direct connection to the planets above, the whole entire purpose of the menorah, and why it should be made of iron, and why Moloch needs to be made of brass, why the Hindus have to bring iron utensils to do their prayer. Moses' staff that cured all the Israelites from snake bites, made of brass. Every planet above carries these elements. It is a connection straight to them. Let's move on from Stonehenge. Apparently there's some Roman influence here. Starting from the center roof, 3, 6, the big door at the center makes 7 for the 7 planets. Along the side from the false doors on the first level up, you'll see 5 representation for the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. I used a red line so you can see the as above, so below on the building. Now let's go somewhere cool. The Existine is something different I haven't seen so far yet in my travels. It would be my wish to inspect every crevice and nook and cranny on this mountain-sized monument. Let's take a peek at what I noticed so far. When you count the individual sections, you'll count 7. This is a representation for the 7 planets. Even on the pathways, you'll count 7 roads, including the one with the tree I marked with the 7 because it's really hard to see that path. Instantly, I know this place is dedicated to the planets and meditation. I noticed 4 doors on this side of the monument. I used tiny blue dots so you can see the one at the bottom near the lake and the tiny one up where the other 4 are. If you go around the side, you'll see 3 more dotted with the light blue mark. This makes a count of 7 just like the monument itself. Now let me be the first to help point out that this should be one of the 7 wonders of the world. There's no way there's any tool on earth that could have carved this place. Even close up, you'll see fracture lines showing the energies of the planets and how it flows. Now we all know there's a natural energy that is inside of water, using all of the pyramids on Earth as an example, not to mention just people being around it is free energy. I see a crack start up from the water and go up gradually, forming things like Y-shaped tuning forks as the fracture line travels up. The Y shape is recorded since the Stone Age for being used as a symbol of a human matching their frequency to the planet's frequency above. I marked blue dots at the top where the line ends. It shows that line run into a planet. There's 5 to count in total, representing the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury. There is no tool on this planet, as I've said. Here's a closer look at this work of art. This only reminds me of one of my subscribers that informed me a Native American tribe that does not take credit for petroglyphs found in the area that they lived in. And you have the same thing with South America and the pyramids. So now I have even more work to do as I recreate the Tower of Babylon, how areas that we settled into all over the world were already staged by a puppet master. Everyone clearly sees the difference once time goes through a civilization, the difference between what was there and what we added, clearly showing the difference of what we can duplicate and what can't be duplicated. Moving on just to get a closer look at some of the details inside of the rock. This place is highly underrated and not talked about. It should be placed on a map with other great places around the world. So hopefully with this video, I can help bring light to that. Going upstairs, you even see 9 boards across on this bridge representing the 9 planets. That back window shows the count of 8 going straight up and down. When you count that circle planet to the left of it, that equals 9 for the 9 planets. Matching the boardwalk, when you count the window going across, you'll get the representation for the 5 planets when you count that planet to the left. So this ancient place has a representation for the 5, 7, and 9 planets. Up top, when you count the rocks going across, you'll get 9 for the 9 planets. And of course, it rests on a cube, which represents the cube of Saturn. Starting at the upper part of the carving, you'll see the representation for 3 on the flag. You'll also count 7 figures that are dotted with light blue. The star to the top left also counts 7 for the 7 planets. I also dotted light blue all the geometric shapes all around this carving. Every detail matters, even the drapes. You see the representation for 5. Now underneath is too disfigured for me to actually tell you what it represents. But we've seen plenty of carvings around the world to know the upper part is usually where the holy people are, and underneath is where the monsters or spirits are. I guess in some cases a balance over good over evil. I found the shot so you can see in detail the counts I gave you. You can count the pointed star and the drapes. I'm not in the business of tricking anyone. This channel is about truth. Let's do some jewelry now. Moving on. I marked in yellow just different ways where you can see the cross shape. This represents the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. Saturn is always in the center. This is why I always leave a marker for you. The new cross is completely different from the old one, so now you know that that center does represent something. If you even count the stones placed around the center, you'll see 5 in a row representing the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. The black stone in the center representing Saturn, no different than the black stone in Mecca today. Starting from the top, you see 3 stones, 3 red stones. The bottom, you see 3 for 3 red stones. This so far equals 6. Where you see the green one represents 7. The one on the other side would represent 8. In the middle, 9 for 9 planets. Like I've told you guys before, every piece of jewelry, headwear, belt represents the planets. That was his original purpose for it. This symbol does not mean hate. It represents the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. I marked all the points where you would count the planets. At the top I have a 3, but there may be another line under that for 4. That whole piece would represent the 5 planets when you count the top. Or if it isn't that and it's just the 3, the knowledge of the gods. We could also consider that white planet-shaped stone running into the 4 lines to represent the 5 planets. Let's see what else we have. If you count the green dots, you'll count 5. This is to represent the 5 planets. The one at the bottom has a double border circle, so that represents Saturn. Where you see the 7 planets in yellow, you'll see 7 red circles draped down like a necklace. You see a representation for 3 over top of that, and direction signals over top of that represent 5, and the energies of the planets raining down and back up again. This makes this weapon possible to be enchanted. Just like the chest protectors the Israelites wore to keep themselves safe from the Ark of the Covenant, you'll notice jewels embedded inside of the jewelry, not just for decoration, but for health, prosperity, wealth, etc. Starting from the very top down, you'll see 5 for the 5 planets. Then you'll see a level for 3, the 3 kings of earth, knowledge of the gods, Earth's holy trinity. Under that, you'll see 9 stones grouped together, representing the 9 planets. Under that, you'll see 12 for 12 constellations. I know what I said. The rule is if you have round mounds, you have an older civilization. This 12 doesn't represent the constellations that Germany has. It represents the constellations they have a hold on. And I'll prove it in this episode like I prove everything I say. You guys know I have a God complex. Beneath that, you'll see the representation for 9 stones with the as above, so below, right down the middle. Take your time and count. Notice Saturn, the double-bordered sun. Moving on, let's see what we have here. Starting from the very top, 5 for the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. Under that, you see 4 shapes under the 5, making it 9 total, mixed in with Gnosis symbolism. Under that, you see the 3, which represents the 3 you would need to have this knowledge from to obtain this. When they came down from the skies and gave humans the knowledge of the planet. Notice underneath that, you see the frequency patterns running up a straight line, matching your body's frequency to the planets above. Moving on, my work is done here. You'll see 3 colors in this picture: blue, green, and orange. I dotted the outer skirt with the white with the blue dots. That represents 7 planets when you count the center. You'll see the blue dot in the center. The 5, if you count the center where the sun is, you see the 4 red rubies. That counts 4, and the center sun counts 5, which leaves only 9 left. When you look around the sun, you see diamonds grouped in 2s. That counts 9 when you count the center as well for 9 planets. So now you have the representation of 5, 7, and 9 planets all in one. Next up, starting from the left of the picture, you'll see 7. Now that counts the 2 blue teardrops and the 5 yellow stripes underneath of it. Notice the 3 separated for knowledge of the 3. I traced in white the blue diamond all the way down to show the cross shape that you should focus on. You can do it with the red as well. So on the other side of the picture, I did the cross shape with the red diamonds. This has hidden shapes all up and down this piece of jewelry for you to focus on. Next up, same trick as last time. Count all the big stones, circles on the outskirt. I dotted them with light blue. When you count the middle, that equals 7 for the 7 planets. When you count all the white stones on the outskirt that I dotted with red, plus the center, you get 7. When you count all the directional triangle shapes, plus the center, you get 7 total. Feel free to pause and take your time. My subscribers don't bother. They see me crack things all over this planet. Starting from the outskirt, where you see the 7s, represent the 7 planets. Where you see the 15 represents the constellations that Germany has. Yes, I checked the petroglyphs as receipts. Ireland, Australia, Germany, 15 constellations. Long before the pyramids in Egypt stood, you were already doing your thing. Now, if you're wondering why the 7 at the top and the bottom are longer than the ones on the side, it's because I did as above, so below, right down the center. I left all the numbers up so you can see how cool it looked, decoded. Of course, the piece in the middle has 3 on the outskirt at the top, 3 on the outskirt at the bottom. The center equals 7 for the 7 planets. My Jewish star, supposedly. Of course, you see the flow of energies around the shape. Now, I broke this up for everyone so it'll be easy to follow. Also, to let everyone know that there's nothing I can't decode. Starting from the bottom, you see the 9. Feel free to count the dots. You'll get 9 for 9 planets. Above, where you see the crescent moon, you'll get 7 dots. I used light green along the side because you can barely see that there's 2 dots over there. At first, it only looked like 5 in the main part, but there's 7 for 7 planets. I think they wanted to group 5 together to give you the option of the sun and moon included. I have a cluster of 7 grouped in a circle over top of the crescent moon. And then over that, you see the 9 that fills in the rest of the plate shape. Now, when you count all the gold pieces in the center of the plate, you see 4. And when you add the plate itself, it makes 5. Notice on the outskirt of the plate, you see the ripples for the frequencies to match to these planets. Every one of my subscribers know there's no one on the internet that can dance with me. Moving on. To the right, you see 9, 3, 6, 9. This represents the 9 planets, the true purpose of an earring. On the left, you see more stones visible. The smaller ones count 5 on each side. If you draw a line right down the middle, 5 planets you can see with your naked eye, with the as above, so below reference. Next up, we see some headpieces that the elders of the tribe may have wore, the ones that seek a connection with the gods above for his people. I've already proven before these tall hats represent antenna to reach the heavens above. This is why it's duplicated all around the world. Starting from the right, where you see the 5, the smaller hat, starting from the base, you'll notice the ring of Saturn. You'll also notice that there are rows with dots. That's the planet levels for the representation. This is how they accessed the 5 planets. The middle represents the 12 constellations, the Germanic tribe tract. To the very left at the base, you see the representation for the knowledge of 3, right where your third eye would rest. Above that, I counted 15 with a possibility of 16 if that very first groove counts. The base of the hat covers some of it, so I don't know if it's supposed to count. Like I said before, I don't try to trick any of my viewers. I try to give my honest opinion. I will be spending some time in Germany. There's a few sites that I have to decode with a fine eye. This is some rare things that I haven't seen in other parts of the world. If you start at the bottom of the picture, you see that bridge that starts alone. When you look up, it almost looks like a tree of life with the roots running from house to house. The other 4 bridges make a total count of 5 for 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. Over top of that, there's a Y-shaped tuning fork that points to the gate to the right, exit. I will take my time with this place later. This site is a warning. When you see this, this means that it's low tide and famine will come following this. Even the anchor represents the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. And what a perfect symbol to take out in the seas with you against the wild storms and the rough waves. An anchor of the 5 planets to give you protection, to keep you grounded in wild seas. There's another example, just so we're clear. Inside of that cube, right under the cross at the top, you'll see a shield. Inside of that shield represents the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye, which became today's cross. Protection from the 5 planets. The cube base represents Saturn, of course. Sorry I made you wait, Fred, so long. Here's what you're waiting for. Let's start at where you see the 15 at the bottom. You'll count 15 lines there for the 15 constellations. Over top of that sun shape, you'll see a V shape. I dotted with a light blue marker. Now, this ensures that I did the Dogon tribes right, because you see, just like them, with the 17 on the bottom and the 12 on the top, Germany has the 15 on the bottom with the 12 on the top, representing that they harness the powers of the 12 constellations. And this is why I let no one challenge me, because there's no one close. That petroglyph is a mirror of the Dogon tribe statue I showed you. I marked in red over top all the circles that represent the 12 constellations. In the next picture, you'll see the frequency waves. I marked with red the representations of the planets as the frequency runs through them from planet to planet. I counted 9 for the 9 planets. Below, you see a representation for the 7 planets. Just like the rest of the world, you'll see 7 in the representation of the animal when you count the legs, tail, head. In this next picture, notice the character with the bird on his arm has a frequency pattern at his waist, showing the frequencies that travel through his body to reach the planets. The checkerboard on his back counts 5 across, representing the 5 planets you can see with your naked eye. Again, with the checkerboard that made it into the Catholic Church today's time. Now, let's explain this and what it truly means. This portrait portrays that the Germanic tribes of the past were gods, just like every civilization around the world that had the knowledge of the 5, 7, and 9 planets. Look at the collar on his neck to amplify the 7 or 9 planets that he has on his jewelry. I showed you special placement for the throat chakra in the Native American clothes. You see the 3 gold coins on both sides of the chain at the top. That represents 6 planets. The middle piece at the bottom represents the 7th one. Then if you just count the bottom part of the chain piece, you'll see 9 red rubies, representing the 9 planets above. His belt, that's looped with shields, have the representation of 7 planets inside of it. You have again the cross, which represents the 5 planets. You see the tuning fork in red. This is a representation of the human body matching frequencies with the planets above, just like a real tuning fork having to match frequencies with each other before it resonates to each other. And of course, in the knife, you see the decoration for the 7 planets and the 5 below that. Notice how the top of the red-handled sword has Saturn sitting right there, handing out justice, one swing at a time. Blonde hair is special, not because it's superior. Blonde hair is special because it's a representation of how beautiful our sun is, how it shines down on everything, making everything bright. A reminder of a perfect day after a cloudy week. A reminder of the gold veins that run through this earth that make this planet rich. Every group of people's hair is special in their own way. Blue eyes is special because it's a reminder of Saturn and how he sent the tablet with the instructions to save humanity from the flood. Blue all over the world is a symbol of hope, a symbol of a promise to save and protect all. From here on, blonde hair and blue eyes stand for light and hope. Studying the entire world's stories and magic, I discovered how foreign nations turn on neighboring nations. I introduced to you the Book of Solomon. As I explained to my subscribers before, these stories are coded for you to receive the important truth through it. Now, we already know the Book of Solomon's 72 demons involve some characters from other mythologies. That wasn't the importance of the story. The importance was learning the different attributes of the demons. You can trap them and use them for your own purposes. So when I started listening to the story and heard things like demons that break up a happy home, demons that specialize just on men wanting to cheat on their wife, demons for women to want to cheat on their husbands, and lots of other things in between. But the most important was the ability to cause mischief among rival nations. It was quoted in this book that Beelzebub's son was the one that hardened Pharaoh's heart to make him chase him even into the sea that swallowed him. They call this today's time not being in your right mind, having the option to plead insanity in a courtroom. When King Solomon asked Beelzebub what his duty was, Beelzebub says, "I destroy kings. I align myself with foreign tyrants, and my own demons I set to men, so they will be lost deception and believe in what's not true, to ruin your crops, wicked acts, to haunt and taunt your sleeping child, to make us foul to desire for war, separates mothers from daughters, and the urge to destroy the world, making the expression born of sin a true thing. Having an understanding on true history is important for this world to heal, and not only to heal, but to move on and rebuild. Every neighboring nation that rivaled each other wasn't just by whim. It was a puppet master pulling the strings of the puppet. Once this entire planet understands this, once they understand the cruelty of the Anunnaki, for example, in lieu insisting we have foreskin, for anyone to be able to tell the difference between an Anunnaki and a human, then they have us do practices of circumcisions, leaving us in tremendous pain, mutilating our bodies for his amusement and his dislike for us. Once I go viral and the whole world finds out their true story, every flag will be under one. Every nation will be one army, the smartest in every country, building our spaceships and technology. Our ancestors that traveled this land, warriors, will fight, but not this time, against each other. Imagine all the warriors of the world on one team. The Anunnaki feared one day that humans would surpass them, and that day is near. Once every human realizes the power of the planets, once we know the true enemy is not the ones that believe differently or look differently, but the ones that pretended to be our gods in each civilization, then had us kill each other. This is still going on until this day. I say no more. It's always a pleasure to have an audience to ramble to and to teach understanding at the same time. Remember to be good to each other, take care of the elderly, and remember, Saturn's always watching. Thanks for giving me a chance to explain Germany. I enjoy visiting this beautiful land. It's so important, and now there's a platform for the entire world to come and have an understanding on other traditions and other people's cultures. Fred, I hope you enjoyed this one. I may stay in Europe for a while.